The Roundtable's my thing. I say you could swear as much as you want.
Letter carriers say they've been working for more than 500 days without a contract, and today they made their voices heard on the streets of downtown.
USPS failed to protect Eugene Gates and others.
Fired up! Can't take it no more!
Mail carrier robbed at gunpoint.
Police are targeting these mail carriers for their universal keys.
Nearly 1,200 reported attacks and other assaults on postal workers just last year alone.
Welcome to Next Gen Letter Carriers. My name is James Capone. I am a branch president of Branch 764, and I've been carrying for 20 years.
Hi, this is Greg Samoluk, President, Branch 334, Framingham. Been carrying for 22 years.
And tonight we have Chris Grinnell from the Mass State Association. Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, and I'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Chris Grinnell. I'm the president of Branch 51, Fall River, Massachusetts. I've been a letter carrier since 2013, and good to be here with you guys.
And you're branch president as well of Branch 51, right?
I'm the branch president,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. And on the state board, you're the treasurer?
Yeah, I have a lot of hats. I'm the
Yep.
treasurer of the state. There's a district association. I'm the secretary treasurer. I'm an arbitration advocate. I have a lot of hats.
And
Keep yourself busy.
yeah, and I think another member of the state board will be with us any minute. Derek Leenholm. I can never pronounce it.
Laser Lamone.
Laser Lamone. Derek's going to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about some things that's going on at the state. But first, Capone, I think we wanted to talk about some other stuff that's going on, including observe what today is, I think.
Yes, so we are recording on Veterans Day. So I just want to say happy Veterans Day to all the veterans in my branch. Also, I wanted to say happy Veterans Day to my grandfather who has passed, Arthur Al Capone, U.S. Navy since 1944.
Yeah, we observed it yesterday in my office. I have a bunch of vets that we called them up, gave them a round of applause. I believe a lot of them told me that the post office, I think the new PMG sent them all pins in the mail recently. And this job used to be, well, it probably still is the highest. We were the biggest hire of veterans. Coming back from more years ago, and I think it's still a good job for veterans. And Derek's here.
How's
Hi,
it going?
Derek. You want to
Can you
introduce?
hear me all right? Is my
Yeah,
audio
perfect.
good?
Yeah, you're perfect. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name's Derek. I'm a letter carrier in Boston. Been carrying for 2 years, and right now I'm an alternate steward and also on the Massachusetts State Letter Carriers Association state board.
Yeah. So we before you got here, we were saying that we're going to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing over at the state with state board with something you guys recently passed, a resolution that was passed. But obviously we're observing Veterans Day. But we wanted to talk about a few things before we got there, and you guys feel free to contribute. As some people know, last week we had the Next Gen Main podcast had an interview with President Renfro. I just want to say, just in terms of my office, and I don't know if you guys have seen any reaction from this. I think a lot of people were a little down after hearing some of the things he had to say. Mostly about, don't expect, quote unquote, to paraphrase maybe, don't expect too much out of this next contract. I just think people got to realize, I was talking to Capone about this the next day. I think he's got to temper expectations a little too. I compare it to the doctor that gives you 6 months to live and then you live 2 years and the doctor looks like a hero. So if Brian tells everybody, don't expect too much, and then you get a little more than we thought, obviously, he comes off a little better. So I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a little bit that they do really worry about the finance of the post offices, what the post office has. And obviously you heard him say when I asked him about UPS coming back, and he was basically like, well, that's a loss for the post office because they don't charge him enough. Well, there's a scenario where I think people are like, well, why don't they just charge him more? So, the other reaction I'm seeing from the Renfro interview was, I think people, it's a select few that think we're a little soft on him, quote unquote, throwing softballs at him. And I don't think even the people running against him think that you should have Brian on a podcast and start screaming at him, or rehashing the old contract. When you have someone, you respect the office, even if you don't respect the person. So I just wanted to say I think the four of the people, Margot, John, Chris, and Capone, that were on there, that we all asked the questions that we felt were necessary at the time. Capone, I don't know how you feel about that. If you want to say anything about the reaction from it.
So I understand what you're saying about your point of kind of hedging his bets here and not, you know, not getting people too excited. But the situation I have is when you're trying to mobilize people, that is a horrible way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
To answer it in basically such a giving in mentality, don't expect too much. It is something that we should be fighting and always give the aura of us fighting. You don't see a boxer going in the way and going, well, it's going to be a good fight. I hope we win. It's going to be all right. We'll do our best out there. No, you want to see somebody fired up. We're going out there. We're going to get what you deserve. You guys worked during COVID. We're going to make sure you get paid. We are going to fight for every dime that we can. That's the motivation you want to hear. In regards to the softballs and all that, you're right. Look, we're asking the questions. How he responds to the questions is what people need to hear. It's not so much of just, oh, we're going to go at him and we're going to hang up on him or we're going to yell at him. You're not going to get very far about that, especially not talking about the past contract. That shit's gone. There's been Article 10 charges filed. Some of them are still in the process. Some haven't done anything. We have to put some focus on the battle ahead. And that means going for the contract and asking the questions and seeing where he's going to fight. And if he's not going to fight, then we show him we want him to fight in those positions or we want him to go with the angle. Not just, oh, we're never going to talk to you. We're going to hang up on you. We're going to throw tomatoes at you in the street. And there were questions that if you listen to how he answered, it should give you a guidance on how they're going to present themselves, how they're going ahead. And there were questions I asked about the welcome back to work packets because I felt it's something that lots of carriers are getting in their offices. I feel it's nothing more than abuse hidden under a veil of we're letting you know what the attendance policy is. And I wanted the NALC to respond to that and see why is something not being done nationally on it. But the point is to get them to answer more questions, not to have them not want to talk to anybody because of the way we behave.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if people expect Brian to be the type to get you to run through a wall like a football coach, it's just that's not his style. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they listen to our interview with Mac Julian 2 days later, because we were saying Mac shouldn't be in the NALC. Mac might need to run for president of the United States after listening to him talk. It's just that's not Brian's MO. I always say, and I said it right around the contract, I had majority of my office voted no. And I told people, vote how you want, but this is how I'm going to vote. And this is why I'm going to vote. It was mostly because of, even though I'm top step, it was mostly because of table two and that I didn't think that it benefited those people. But you're just not going to get that out of Brian, but you should be, maybe Chris can jump in here. That's in my mind, that's where your local president comes in. I've always said to the NALC, executive board people that I've ever talked to, I think you should listen to the local presidents a little more because I think that's where those are the people that get the information. I like that they're having these rank and file committees down in Washington because they're starting to listen. Do have a few concerns about some of those committees, but mostly are those people afraid to say no, this is what we're thinking. Maybe they are. I can't say that they aren't, but I think you get the motivation from your local president. So Chris, I don't know if you have opinion on that, if you want to hop in on that.
Yeah, I mean, just for a lot of things. I mean, with Brian, if you guys talk, I didn't see the Brian episode, but how you guys are talking about it. I mean, I was at the COP just recently, and I mean, the entire bag of what's happening with the administration, I'm sure, is going to be affecting our negotiations as well. I mean, we're probably ending with a shutdown soon. But it's real bleak when we're looking at, federal workers. There was like an 800,000 size union there, and they're just decimated with their dues
Hmm.
destruction. So I mean, like, it's a real negative time. So I mean, like, so we need to stabilize the membership's expectations in the next contract. But also, I would like to think that maybe Brian learned from the last time. He said it was going to be historical. And then it kind of ended up being similar. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the money might have been like high for like what we've had, but obviously it was deaf for the moment that it was. But when we did it in my office, if you actually look at the national numbers, most people voted 2-1 with no being the 2-1. My office was actually the opposite. We voted 2-1 for yes, but I didn't tell my members which way I was voting. We just kind of this is the facts of the contract. You guys decide what you want to do, and that was it. So
Yeah, I think a lot of the people, like, after things settled, and especially the top step, now you hear people say, top step's not that bad. I don't know what I don't think they ever expected to get up there to like what UPS is, obviously, and I think that's obviously a tougher sell because that's the private sector. But I think, if you pulled an office that had more top step people in it, I'm sure there was a lot more yes votes. And then if you pulled an office that was mostly table two, kind of somewhat, mine's, big office, but I think a lot of those people either said no, or maybe they said, maybe I just need that little bit that got that, that he did get. But I think that obviously this time he's not going to wait the 700 days that we had to wait. I think even he had kind of said on the podcast that it's going to go to arbitration pretty quick. Derek.
Yeah, I mean the political situation and even more so the economic situation that we're looking at for the next 3 years is bad. Like we're having to play the hand that we're dealt. I think the problem that a lot of us are having with Renfro is there are things that we do have under our control, which is how we approach bargaining and how organized we are as a union and how prepared we are to take on an important contract fight that we're totally fumbling the ball on. I mean, we need to be actually organized in the way that frankly most other unions do. If the Eye of Sauron comes back onto the USPS and they decide to remove automatic dues from the union, what are we doing to be able to be prepared for it? There's no systematic organization of the rank and file in order to combat that.
Uh,
Um,
and I actually, if I could just comment on that, Derek. So, I mean, at the COP, so if you hear a lot of things that what from Nashville, they actually have a due system ready to combat. Like, so because the problem is when that federal union collapsed, they had their dues go from 800,000 members to 25%. The NLAC has doomsday plans ready for stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm glad that our union has the foresight to see what's happening around us. And yes, the ISR isn't on us yet, but we're ready for it. And if so, there is a dues mechanism just about ready. You'll probably hear about that at the national wrap in a couple weeks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm heartened to hear that. I'm just saying, what plan do we have to systematically talk to every single worker in the NALC and get them to sign up for this doomsday dues process? I think we're unprepared for that at the moment.
I think you're right, Derek, and I think part of the problem is, there's a we see it, there's a 5% of the group that gets together and gets on Zooms and does podcasts and goes to phone banks for surveys. But you got to remember the other 90%, 95% of the membership just shows up to work every day and doesn't really worry about the doomsday. And it's a whatever, if it happens it happens. And it's the apathetic attitude that I think um, slowly is changing, and I think the last contract had something to do with that. But we have to get more of the rank and file, you know, involved in organizing. And I think part of the problem is, and it's a good that two people from the state are here, is that it's everything's politics nowadays. Even in the NALC, it's like you got people that voted for Harris, you got people that voted for Trump, you got people that didn't vote for either. But explaining to each side that we have to do things that just benefit the post office. So if Donald Trump is going to hurt the post office, you have to explain to his voters in the post office that he's going to hurt you. You can still, as I said the other day, use that vote as a threat to not vote for him and their family not to vote for him. But I think part of the biggest issue is the apathetic attitude that a lot of our coworkers do have, and I see it as a branch president where um, nobody knows what's going on. If I said HR 70 in to my branch, they would say, "What are you talking about?" I post stuff about it, but a lot of them are just like, "Oh, let me know when it happens." And I think that's where we have to really focus on is changing the membership's attitude to get more involved, you know.
So it's kind of, to tie it all up is what Chris Grinnell is saying is that they do have a system to collect the dues automatically. I believe we wouldn't have to sign up for it, but collecting the dues is one piece of the puzzle. The other part would be to get the members activated and get involved. It's kind of that idea of the union bullseye, where in the middle is your very active members. We need to start moving more members to that middle of it to get more activated, more knowledgeable. As reps, one of the things that we know the most important thing is being knowledgeable about what you're doing and getting more carriers to be knowledgeable about what's going on so that they can be activated. Because I believe we had said on the podcast, there's 190,000 of us. If every one of us got involved and we brought 2 family members and we brought 2 customers, we got a million right there. I mean, and that is real force. Just imagine if people were really concerned and understood what affecting the post office would do and affecting the letter carriers would do, and we'd really get some movement.
Yeah, I think, and just, if we wanted to wrap up this little Renfro conversation, is I said it after the podcast to the chat was, people have to realize if you're going to put, and I said this is going to be a contested election. You have, Brian hasn't announced yet, but he's probably going to run, and you have James Henry who's running and Mike Cariff who's running. I think people have to lower expectations on any other person that's going to be union president, because they're not going to get you 10%. They're not going to get you 12%. And I'm not saying they're promising that. So I think if you put this hero, oh, the saviors are coming, and I have nothing against anybody that wants to do that job. I think they all have good qualities, but you're going to be grossly disappointed if you think someone's going to sweep in here, and I don't care what slogan they have, and if they think they're going to sweep in and change everything, it's not going to happen. So I think people don't set yourself up to be disappointed if in a year from now or a little over from a year from now is another union president, and oh, things are great now, because we're still going to be dealing with the economic, repercussions of, the shutdown and this current administration, in my opinion. But I just wouldn't. I don't want people to set their expectations too high. So I don't know if you guys had anything on that.
There's a lot there.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the Mass State Association. You guys passed a resolution recently, and I had asked our NBA officer, Rick DeCecca, if there has been a resolution like this before in the state. He believed one, but this isn't something that our state has normally always been involved in. So that's a big thing that you guys got involved in. Do you want to explain what it was and how the ball got rolling?
Yeah, I'm happy to start us off. So, in Massachusetts right now, there's a proposal for a ballot measure for next year's election, which is for rent control. So basically, it's very difficult to get a ballot measure onto a ballot. They require 3% of the participating voters in the previous election to physically sign a piece of paper asking for that specific question to be on board. And Massachusetts is one of the most expensive states in the country. Letter carriers cannot afford the median wage in Massachusetts on a letter carrier salary alone. And housing prices here are insane. Rents are insane. And what this rent control measure does is limits the amount that landlords are able to increase the rent each year to whatever the inflation is, with a maximum of 5%. So if there's 3% inflation, your landlord can raise your rent, but it can only be up to 3% to reach the inflation in their costs for managing the property. And this will help a lot of our letter carriers. There are a lot more renters who are letter carriers than there are letter carriers who are landlords. And the ability to organize our members to fight for our interests, not just related to postal issues, but to organizing the entire worker and be able to support our members in all aspects of their life, I think is something that we should move to more.
Yeah, if I just piggyback on what Derek was saying there, yeah, it is so. Yeah, there was a motion that was in the state board, to back this ballot measure. They need like 75,000 signatures, and it's very difficult to get because a lot of times these forms that you get from the state, they're very specific, and you can't have any marks or anything like that on it. So they throw away a ton of these things. So they were looking, the organization, and we teamed up. What was it, Derek? Home for All, right?
Homes for All
Homes
is
for
the
All.
organization that has been pushing for this to be a law in Massachusetts for years, and the legislature has killed it every time. It's been stalled there for years, and so now they're trying to bring it to the voters directly instead of through the legislature.
Yeah, they were looking to get like 120,000 signatures, so just in case like a bunch of them get thrown out. They need to get that done by the first Wednesday in December. So they needed us to try to collect as many as we could. I don't, Derek, did you get any updated numbers on it? I don't think it's
Um,
probably past this go, but it's keeping that fight going along at least.
the most recent update that I got is they have 100,000
Do they really?
Wow.
signatures. Yeah,
Really? Okay,
so
so we might actually see
that's
something
where we're
next.
at right now. I think it's likely that it'll pass,
Oh, okay.
depending on what quality those signatures are.
Yeah.
Um, and I've gotten those forms from you, Chris. I'm gonna drop them off tomorrow, and then I'll let you guys know how many we ended up collecting. And if this ends up passing, then we'll be able to use the state board to organize our members to vote for this endorsement, for
Well,
this
yeah,
ballot measure.
there's one more step in there. So it's going to go to the state legislature, and they can either pass the measure, propose a substitute, or take no action on it. And they're probably going to take no action on it. So which would mean that we'd have to get more signatures again. So you'd have to collect about 1,300 signatures, which obviously if you got 120,000 the first time, 13,000 is not going to be too bad. But that would be the next step would probably be helping them again, getting more signatures, and then hopefully, moving the letter carries the vote that way. But that's, the difficult stuff that getting stuff moved in your state is. I mean, in any democracy.
Yeah, I mean we're built on hostile terrain. The reason they put so many hurdles in front of things is because they don't want things going to be voted on directly. It's a way to hoard power within the legislature.
It's that landlord lobby that probably influences the mess. That was a semi joke, but there is probably a lot of owners that say, "No, we're gonna charge what we're gonna charge, and we'll find someone to rent from us." And I think it's great you guys did that because I remember, and it's still going on, and you can't, we deliver in every city, every, inch of the country basically. And I remember hearing you can't even rent in San Francisco and be a letter carrier. You're basically qualified for welfare. And obviously Boston's not that bad, but I don't work in the city and Derek, you do. At that, a new hire, how you can afford the rent in the city and you have to work 80 hours a week,
I've
so
got three roommates.
no, but this is something I was so when you told us that you did this, I think we were on a Zoom and you told us you did it, and we were like, wow, it's a great idea because this is like it's not a post office issue like an HR 70 is, but it's a issue that the state could get involved in that affects letter carriers because if you're gonna deliver in downtown Boston, I think you don't want to live in outside of Worcester, I assume. So, I thought it was great that you guys put your name on this. You know,
I mean, Massachusetts, if you've been at the national convention the last like 10, 15 years, you'll see Bobby DeMatteis talking about locality pay every single, and you'll see it at the next national convention as well. So, I mean, this is just another avenue to try to fix the fact that, we have different, every letter carrier is a letter carrier. Everyone gets paid the same amount of money, but this is a way that we're able to make it so that there is that regional difference a little bit. So.
could you guys, was there a debate or any not you mention any names, but any dissent in when this was brought up at state? Did everybody get on board with it pretty quickly? Was there a yeah, oh good. Good to hear.
One of the things that I've always kind of battled back and forth, and this was one of the things that helped change my mind, is that the letter carriers, the NALC should only be involved in carrier issues. And that is something that a lot of people hold on to, and that's not our problem. We only deal with letter carrier issues. And this shows how the state board can actually be involved in things that aren't directly letter carrier issues, but do affect letter carriers and everybody else. Is there some mindset you guys have about that, or have you guys always kind of had that idea?
Can you help me out with your question a little bit more?
In regards to getting involved in issues outside of the letter carrier, exactly. So, we'll deal with a lot of legislative issues that are attacking carriers. HR 70. This is something that isn't really directly carriers, but carriers are affected by.
Are you asking like what does the state board do or like
Was there ever a mindset that, because like I say, I hear it from a lot of carriers, we're only supposed to be involved in carrier issues. And is that something that you've run across or
Yeah,
kind of
that was an argument that was made against it at the state board. I mean, we have carriers that are landlords. This is going to, to some extent negatively affect a few of our members. But the majority of members are either renters or owner occupants of houses. And the way that the real estate lobby drives up housing costs, it means that every year your property taxes grow up for a property you're not going to see the value out of for maybe even years at the end. And limiting the explosive growth of housing prices in this country or in this state specifically is an issue that we need to handle for letter carriers. And when it comes to our ability to advocate for letter carrier specific issues, we haven't been that successful with it. We have not been able to deliver on a lot of legislative gains for letter carriers, not for how much money that we spend. And I think if we're able to work in coalition with other unions, we'll be able to deliver more for our members.
I mean, we have won some big battles.
Yeah.
There was security fairness. We've
6 day.
6 day was huge.
That was in Obama's budget, and I think what was that? You guys weren't even working here, I don't think. Yeah, you were. Maybe. Chris, when did you start? 2013?
2013,
All
yeah.
right, so
I would have to disagree with what Derek just said there. I think we punch way above our belt. I mean, for the amount of money that we put in, we're going against UPS, FedEx, Amazon, who's trying to take all of our work. We punch way above our weight. And I mean, up until like the Postal Reform Act, we were making sure we had co-sponsors on 6 day delivery to make sure that, that all of our issues had co-sponsors saying, hey, don't mess with this. So I
yeah.
think we got a pretty good for our bang.
And that's with also a small amount of carriers getting actually involved. Because I mean, I've never seen what the percentage is, but what do you think of the percentages of carriers that are actually sending letters to the legislators or, actually going on the NALC site to go to political action and physically getting involved? I think this goes back to mobilizing everybody. If every letter carrier signed on to that and had those bills, those legislations, sending it to their representatives, it would be huge. We do very good work with the money and the activism we have now. Just imagine more money and more activism, more people donating to Letter Carrier Political Fund, more people sending letters to their representatives, it would be huge.
Yeah, I think
12% of all letter carriers donate to the letter carrier political fund. So
What is it?
12% letter carrier
12%.
political
I mean,
fund.
so think about that. 12%, even a dollar from every other member, a paycheck, how huge that would be. I mean, obviously, five is the minimum we hope for, five a paycheck, which is so minimal. Once everything comes out, you don't notice it, but it makes such a huge difference on the actually earning potential you have throughout your whole career. You donate $5 a paycheck, that might be the difference between $20,000-$30,000 at the end of your career, or what you're getting in retirement, or just what's going in your TSP, buying your TSP time back. I have a couple of, buying your career time back. I have a couple of buddies that were the CCAs. That's one of my friends is 8 years, and he ain't getting any younger. That 8 years will probably help him out huge.
I mean, the letter carrier political fund, $5 a pay period, it's $130 a year. I find like I have my branch, we have just about 50% of the people donate to the letter carrier political fund, and that's because most people don't know about it. And I hope that, people who are listening to you guys right now are like going, hey, I need to call my president, because every president has what's called an atrium report, and we're able to sign people up real easy. And most of the times, some people have heard of it, but it's asking. We made sure to me and my EVP, he was the president at the time. We would get a 6-pack of beer every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Just start calling everyone that we know. We did it for a summer, and we went from 20 people to 150 people. So I mean, it's just making sure you do the work on that. So
yeah, I think it's hard. Like you try to explain to people this is what it does, and they're just like, nah, no, it doesn't. And then it doesn't. And then you explain to them, no, like I want you to take it back through history, the last 20 years. And this is a company that's cried poor mouth for since 2006, 2000, that after the Postal Reform Act back then. But and yet we've maintained this strength with in Congress and been able to be around because we have influence over politicians, and that's not a coincidence. And I can tell you, having been around since 2003, you never saw a Republican at a national convention. And then all of a sudden, guess what happened? You started sending them a check, and they started showing up and talking about, oh yeah, I love you guy, and I know my mail carrier, this is his name or her name. And that's how you influence or win favors from these people, is by money, unfortunately. And explaining that to people is tough. So I think there needs to be a better way of explaining that. I've said it as like, okay, you don't you all the money goes to Democrats. Well, it goes to whoever supports it. Whoever supports the post office. I don't want to give money to a Democrat. Well, don't think of it like that. Think of it, you're giving money to someone that supports your job and wants to keep your job around. So
it's job insurance. I mean, my exact pitch is like, hey, how you doing, so and so? Hey, have you heard about the Larry Carey Political Fund? No, give me 1 minute. It's like, hey, this is the Larry Carey. It's our political PAC. It's how we get things moved in Congress. It's not right. It's not left. It's only about letter carrier issues. If they vote for us, we give them money. I mean, and then we'll usually, if it's a CCA, you talk about the buyback of your temporary time or something like that. Retirees, it used to be about windfall elimination. Sometimes you tail it to the person who it is, but most of the time at the end, 50-50 shot, they usually say yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Chris and Greg, both branch presidents, have the same thing I do, and I have a small branch. You talk about it so much, your members fucking get tired of hearing it sometimes. I'm constantly pushing Let It Go, your political fund, and we went from, I think we had 3 people donating it when I became president, and we've seen a 20 to 25% increase the past 2 years.
That's awesome.
Each year, and it's just pushing it. And once people understand what it is, what it does, and it's a bipartisan thing, it's you can direct them to understand why it is so important and how it's a little thing. I mean, you can think of it like car insurance, life insurance, health insurance. This is an insurance for your job and your benefits and your retirement. I mean, they were just trying to take away the early out retirement.
Social
The
Security supplement.
Yeah, the supplement. That's what, 56 and a half, and right now it's, if you don't get it, it's 62. I will tell you this, and it took me years to realize this because I'm 42 now, and I remember my 20s and 30s thinking the difference between 56 and a half and 62 was nothing. They'll all just work till 62. It's not that big of a deal. It is huge the older you get, where getting out at 56 and a half comparative to staying till 62, your body breaks down extremely fast in this job. You will want to leave at the ability to leave at 56 and a half. It's free money. It is so huge. And that's something that we are fighting for still, that we're still having to go back and forth on. They still want to take it away. The other one is the Siegler report. Where Greg, I know he has the exact amount of money that is owed, but it's
Not the exact, but
it's in the billions, right?
It's I'm gonna say 90 billion. It's probably more. The Siegel study Brian talked about the other day. If you just Google Siegel study, it's essentially money that they just took out of our pockets since like the late 2010s, I guess. It's starting back then.
Yeah, it was from the pre-funding,
pre-funding,
wasn't it? It was,
right.
They were taking it out of there.
Yeah.
That is money that would keep us afloat. That would be huge. And that's money they're holding on to us. It will come up sooner or later on the Hill. It will be something that letter carrier political fund can help push. And I remember hearing a stat that every time the gas goes up a couple of pennies, it costs post office $1 million. That's why they want to roll out these vehicles. But we don't have extensive money, and being able to get these vehicles run out as fast as if we had all this influx of money, the amount of things that we'd be able to do to update our system, update our ability to get the mail, get it more efficient outside of what are the carriers doing, get the carriers to do more. They need to be more efficient. We would actually be able to be where we deserve to be, which is the top of the heap. I always hear us compare to, oh, well, UPS is private, FedEx, they're them, we are better than them. We have the ability to be better than them. The only reason we're not better than them is because we've been hampered by that fucking government for years. This money would give us the ability, and that's another reason to donate to the Letter Carrier Political Fund, because these are issues that we're facing and we're going to have to be fighting, and the way we fight it is through the political fund, and it does affect your job later on in the future. Like I said, it's basically insurance. Show me any insurance that is $5 a paycheck, please. I can't find, especially not the health going up 13% for most of us.
Right.
If I go back on that Siegel report, I think you're talking about the pool of money that came from the previous mandate. Yeah, it's
Yes.
just sitting there right now. I think it's like 40 billion, or maybe it's even more that they're just sitting there getting nothing, or they're getting treasury percentage on there. The Siegel report is actually it's the liabilities we had from the civil service. So when they changed us in 1970 from the post office to the service, so it was the liability of those pension benefits. So it could have been fixed just by presidential signature. So it's not that we have to push through. It's just something that, like through Congress, it's just getting the right administration. I don't think we'll get it on this administration, obviously, but that's, I think it's 90 billion, but that's, a bunch of debt that would be get off our spreadsheet. And then we can be like, oh, look, we have all this great credit now. So, yeah.
I guess even though with this, it wasn't, if there was one president I thought would have done it, would have been Biden.
Oh yeah.
But probably the best labor president of our lifetime. Brian did mention, and I'm drawing a blank on the congressman's name from Texas. He is, oh God, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll come up with it. He is going to introduce, and he's a Republican. He's going to introduce legislative action to get the Siegel study money back. I don't think this administration's gonna really want to play with that, because it's gonna look like a bailout to the American public for the post office. But Capone mentioned the supplement, and I think that was in either his the budget to get rid of that, or it was, I don't know if that was Big Beautiful Bill, but it got taken out, and it's most of the reason why it got taken out is because of our influence with the House and the Senate, where that's, when does this guy ever listen to reason? But someone was able to get to him. And, I do believe there was a threat back in March about moving us to the Department of Commerce. And I really do think, I'm not saying that the four of us calling Speaker Johnson's number got it done, but I think enough people talked to the people in the majority and maybe people in the White House, not the direct line to the Oval Office, and said, be careful. These are votes right here. You screw with the post office. A lot of people that love the post office, and by the way, their little pack gives us money, and we don't want it taken away. That's why I'd like to see the letter carrier political fund used a little more of as like a, either play ball with us or you're not going to get the check.
Yeah,
You know,
I believe the specific retirement supplement removal was actually eliminated on basically an exception. The parliamentarian, not even an elected person,
Mm,
basically ruled, "Hey, you're not allowed to be
right,
dealing with this in the
right.
budget." Um, and I mean, we all know how much those rules get greased or ground up depending on how things go and who benefits from it. But I think we got lucky when it comes to that, basically. And the influence that we put in is a very strong defensive insurance. We're able to block a lot of bad things from happening. Um, but the letter carrier has been having our living standards decline for years and years and years. I mean, we are not going to be able to turn this ship around by lobbying efforts alone. Like it hasn't been successful. The labor movement as a whole has moved more towards lobbying in order to get things delivered, and our percentage of total employment has been going down year over year. Um, things things are not going in the right direction.
And you're right about the carrier pay. I mean, we're seeing the pay of what it is and the living of the letter carrier. I always say this: when I started in '06, I got my first two-bedroom apartment. It was 1175. $100 would get you a cart full of groceries, and I had a big Dodge Ram truck, and I think it was $50 to fill it up, 50, $60 to fill it up. And you made it through with a 15,000, $1,500 check every 2 weeks. Nowadays, rents for two bedrooms are some of them $3,000. I know in my area, just outside of Boston, for a two-bedroom, we're probably looking at 2,700. I can only imagine in Boston, Derek, what a two-bedroom looks like now. You got to be close to 3,000.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it's insane, and I mean, we have not been able to keep up with that, and that's a huge thing, especially at the low steps. It is insane. I couldn't imagine. I don't remember what I started at in the post office, but I want to say I was at Shaw's making 750 an hour, and I want to say the post office came in at like 14, and that was huge. And you took the test, and you were excited to get on the job.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
To think from 2006 to 2025, we went from $14 to 19.80, and that was casual. We were the waste of the waste. Beat the hell out of you for 90 days and get rid of you. It is insane that that is all we've seen it increase in that amount of time. And I know the TE's lost. I forget the exact amount. I want to say it was like $7 an hour pay when we went from
$23 to 16, I want to say.
23 to 16. Just insane that we were at that level. We were getting paid good money, and then we took away that money to create the CCA position, which the idea of the position was good because you get them on board for a career and get them in the union. And the idea of the long term viability of the job was a lot more than for a CCA or TE. However, we also beat the hell out of them, made them want to quit every single second they were there. And then that end cup just never was getting there. When the CCA started, there were people that were CCAs for 8 years. We finally cut it down to the 2 years, where that's where we're at. And it's very hard to tell a guy, look, hang in there. In 2 years, you'll make regular. Oh, all right. Well, what's the great thing about you regular or PTF? Well, you still don't make enough to survive, right? But you're working your way up to surviving on how much you make. We're not there yet.
Yeah, and
PTFs, what are they starting at?
26,
yeah,
I think PTS.
the
Yeah,
the
it's a
fact
big
is
jump.
that we're closer to all the other parts of the working class than we used to be. You know, we're treated poorly because we're treated like
Mhm.
normal workers. We're treated like Amazon. We're treated like McDonald's. We're treated like retail. And the living standards for everybody have been going down. Like the people who run this country have been taking more and more away from us for the last 40 years. I mean, the billionaires and the 1% own more than they ever have. And until we're able to, you know, think about how workers stand in society as a whole, we're not going to be able to turn the ship around. Like the reason why people have been exploited so much is because we have low union density. Our unions aren't organized. Our unions aren't able to extract the wages that we were able to before. In the 1980s, our president and the president of the APWU would go into an office with the head of USPS and say, hey, here are our demands. We're going to make this the best job that you can get. And if you don't do this, we're going on strike. And it was illegal to do that. And you know whether management believed them or not, they knew it was a credible threat, and that was how we were able to extract concessions in the past, and we're not able to do that anymore.
Yeah, I
With
mean, Derek, I think what you're getting at is, you know, there's a two-party system in this country, and we can't snap our fingers and make a labor party overnight, right? There should be a workers' party, and that's, but it just can't be the post office alone and the Teamsters. It needs to be all the unions and all the workers. It needs to be places like Amazon and FedEx, and maybe that happens. It's definitely not going to happen overnight. And I think at some point, you know, Bernie Sanders has been saying it for years. The top people in this country own all the wealth, but it, again, it goes to the apathy. People are just, there needs to be some sort of wake up call, and I hope it happens sometimes, because the less the shittier people are treated and the less money they make, and there's gonna be the rubber's gonna hit the road at some point with that, because it can't continue. But I think people, you know, you talk about them walking the office and saying and strike. You know, I do believe in the right to strike, but I do think that people need to, again, temper their expectations with that, because if I think people think that if I walked into my office and took a poll and say, hey, how many people are giving up a couple paychecks? Nobody's going to give up a couple paychecks. This is not going to happen. And I get the strike fund, but how long can that strike fund cover you? So that's why I'd rather see us work with organizing Amazon and FedEx and other services to not align our contracts together, but join together and say, you know, we're here as the delivery network, and better work protection rights, better pay, and stuff like that. So, um,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if there was a strike vote today, I would vote no, because we'd lose.
right.
Why would we lose? Because we're not actually connected to the majority of the rank and file. We don't have one-on-one organizing conversations. We don't teach our stewards how to organize the way that other unions do. Uh, and yeah, we're treated poorly because logistics workers are treated poorly. And until we're able to have an organized logistical sector, things aren't going to turn around.
Yeah. What can I just ask about more about the state? Is there any other issues that I don't know if you guys have had a meeting since this, you haven't had one. Is there any other issue? What's that?
No, yeah, this is kind of the test
Next one's in
balloon for
April.
this. Yeah,
Oh,
next
okay.
one's in April. Is the rent control was kind of a test balloon.
What other, like, are you guys gonna focus now? I think they're gonna get back into session pretty soon, maybe as early as tomorrow, maybe the government's open again. Are you guys gonna be focusing on the postal bills? I know HR 70's at the Senate right now. Are we gonna, and we'll talk about the Mass state. Are we gonna focus on Warren and Markey, getting them on to sign onto these three postal bills, or that postal bill, and then the other two for the House? Is that something that the state's gonna be working on?
And that's one of the prime functions of every state is that they have their letter carrier, congressional liaisons, or
The
the
Lickles.
who are always working on people to co-sponsor bills, and we've been very lucky in Massachusetts. When we looked at the our last meeting in 2024. We were like, hey, who do we get a call? Because there's usually someone who's a pain in the ass. Usually it's Auchinclosh.
Auchinclosh, yeah.
It was Kennedy. Kennedy, who was thinking about running for president someday. He was like, yeah, a nose up
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit. But
yeah.
at the end of 2024, we're like, hey, do we need to call anyone? It's like every single one of them was lined up to either co-sponsor our bills or had already done it because they don't want to like just have a bunch of Democrats on there because obviously they'll never get another Republican on there. And obviously there was the exception of Clark given her leadership position, but they're always working on their co-sponsors. Scott makes sure to get working his lickles to get people signed on. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the HR 70 is going to be, I think people are like, oh, what is it going to be? Well, he might ignore it. For people that don't know, it's the Anti-Privatization Act. It got a lot of co-sponsors in the House, which led to force it to go to the Senate. And then the government shutdown happened. But obviously, I think Warren and Markey will sign on to that. The other ones are similar to the Fairness Act, I believe, with the buying back your TE time. Um, and then there's a Protect Your Letter Carrier Act, which I would hope that everybody would sign on to. I don't know why that would get zero. If I think every congressperson in the country would sign on to that. So, but is there anything else in the state that you guys, something similar to the ballot question that you guys are looking at? No.
again,
No,
touch
I think this
points.
is the first time anyone on the state board has handled Massachusetts specifically. Yeah, we've been federally focused for the majority of our existence.
Maybe we could look at something maybe about if ICE comes to postal property and look at that as a threat to a carrier. Not that they're going to arrest a carrier, but I think eventually we're going to start seeing them on government property. And I don't know about you guys, you two other presidents. I don't want my members in the quote unquote crossfire. So I'd like to see maybe an endorsement of an anti-ice on postal property. I don't think that would go over too well, but I'd like to see something like that come up because I guess a carrier, I don't, Capone knows what state it was the other day, got involved with an ICE agent.
Yeah, I don't remember. I want to say I thought it was Chicago or something, but yeah,
Pretty sure it
basically,
was.
what was it?
I'm pretty sure it was. They have
Yeah.
it was somewhere in Illinois over there where they had ICE was actually like parked on their station.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're a federal agency, so we have to comply with being a federal agency. And there's no way I don't, even if all of us spent $100 on the LCPF, there's no way we're going to be able to talk the USPS to fight another federal system. So I mean, but you could file a safety.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. Couldn't
yeah,
it go under safety where we are being put in the crossfire? They are,
Yeah.
staging in these areas. You have carriers who obviously are not illegal, but might have just gotten citizenship or have gotten citizenship in the few years, and just that people having them on the property might concern them. It's an undue stress that honestly, we have enough stresses and enough things to deal with when we are in the postal facility and loading up our vehicles and all the headaches we do in our job. To have another government agency staging in our parking lots is just insane of a headache that we do not need on top of everything else we deal with.
And if there are ICE vehicles in our parking lots, I mean, our customers would associate us with ICE. I mean, we're federal employees, we're working for the same boss as ICE is. And that's a real threat to safety for us. I mean, we depend on goodwill with our customers in order to stay safe on the job. And if they think we're going to snitch on them and, send ICE after them because they see the vans parked out front, I mean, that's bad for us. That's a safety issue for us. I think we absolutely should be pushing against it.
yeah. It was just an opportunity for me to take a shot at ICE there because I'm tired of seeing them out there. So that I kind of set you guys up there to fail, but no, I can't stand some of the videos. I've
And
seen.
it's going to be used for workplace discipline too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of uh, some sort of policy coming down the pipe about letter carriers interacting with ICE, and the threat of termination for something like interfering with
What,
ICE.
Oh,
oh, you mean,
you got to comply, or you're gonna buy it. That is definitely how it's gonna go.
what
Yeah.
you mean if a manager, if an ICE agent comes up to you in the office and say, "Hey, who lives here?"
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, you can't do that. You can't even do that to a
Yeah,
cop
they gotta
comes up to you. They got to go through a form and all like that. That you can get
get.
away with, but like if you like get out of my way, you got to get out of the way.
Or even I can think of an even worse situation of is if you're out on your route and ICE agents are getting somebody and they're not under clothing that you realize they're ICE. I mean, a lot of us, if we saw one of our customers being hassled, we would say something like, "Hey, what? Get off of them! What are you doing?" That puts us in direct confine with them of what's going on, and that really puts us in a tough position because I've seen some of them you can't see ICE anywhere written on their clothing. They're just coming out, grabbing somebody or taking somebody out. And again, yeah, if you're a customer, if it's one of my customers, I'm getting involved. Those are the people you see every day.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones wearing a mask, but they're in a form of irony, the ones that didn't want to wear a mask 4 years ago, if you need to figure out who they are. So,
Hey, all their asthma cleared up, so now they're good to
yeah.
wear them.
I wanted to just say something. I was reading earlier about that. I don't know what his title was, but the gentleman out in Detroit that they discovered his body 8 hours it was it looks like an SNDC center, stuck in a machine. They didn't discover him for 8 hours. We work for, we're all carriers here. Chris, I don't know if do you carry full time or are you a full
Oh
time?
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know how big 51 was. You still carry.
I know
Um,
we're like 325 members. No,
oh,
I
okay.
I carry a full route, and then I still represent my members. So
Yeah, yeah. But they, for an organization that sees every step we make every day and not being able to, even they do it with the custodians now, they have to have a scanner on them and they have time, but not to have a body laying there for 6 to 8 hours and someone not sweeping the building every night. It really shows I mean, I'm not putting the blame on anybody, but it just shows how they can't get out of their own way sometimes with how this place is run. So I was really sorry to see that. It's getting a lot of national press. So just another, disgusting, you know, death that probably didn't need to happen because I hope it wasn't a machine malfunction. So pretty sad to hear. But
I'm sure if they didn't find the body, he would have got a PDI at the
oh
next
yeah.
stationary events, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always tell the story about a clerk in my office was going out back to get lunch one day, and a guy was stuck under a car, and this kid was a massive kid, and he lifted the car off the person's leg, and he came back to the office, and they were like, "Where have you been? What have you been doing?" And he's like, "I literally just lifted a car off someone's leg," and like, "We don't believe you." It was like you think I'm joking, but that it's just like it goes to like how they really think about us. So yeah, um we're the takeaway from the ballot, the rent control is going to be hopefully on the ballot next year.
Yeah,
Right?
we'll see.
We hope.
Yeah. And we're gonna, if it is, I assume you're gonna be out there canvassing for the vote. With the group. Is the state planning to do, if it is on there, any canvassing, any knocking on doors, or is it just,
I
I
think
think
that's definitely something we should organize.
yeah.
it's something we can talk about. I mean, obviously we have a committee for this that we're doing. So I mean, if there's a directive before the April meeting, I mean, I think me and Derek are on that committee. We could definitely talk about like trying to get some signatures on that. Not, whatever happens during the April meeting, is that will be the discussion.
Nice.
And I know you guys are going around to offices because I have Derek coming to my branch this Thursday for the meeting to get some signatures. So you guys are really doing some work getting some signatures. And how could carriers get involved if their branch is not doing it in this Massachusetts area specifically for this bill, for this resolution? Is there an email they should contact, or
they kind of have to sign the form, and it's like really kind of already like at that line. I mean, Derek's like right there. I mean, if he's able to skate out there, probably, but I don't. I mean, it's they want him in like now.
Okay.
Yeah, if people are interested in doing a similar thing in their state association, you're welcome to send an email. I'll have you guys put the email in the description. We've made a ballot measures committee, and I'd be happy to talk through getting those types of things endorsed.
Great. Capone, you got anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, I would ask one question, Derek and Chris, since you guys are on the state board, how do you envision state board, since we're listening to not just in Massachusetts, how do you envision state boards being? How people can get involved in their state board? Anything along those lines that you guys want to add?
Well, can I define what the state board's supposed to do first? Because
Absolutely,
I guess
yes.
that's probably the best
Most
spot you should
important.
always go with. So I mean, obviously, the state board, all the states boards used to be about training, and then it switched. I'm not sure what year. I think it was before my time, 10, 15 years ago. They switched it to being the legislative arm. Heavily moving COLSEP to the LCPF. So I mean, that would be one of their prime functions is making sure to increase the LCPF. Again, organizing the lickles. Because I mean, sometimes it won't look like your state board's doing anything, but a lot of that stuff is behind the scenes. The lickles signing people up. You may have most of the time the Democrats. Most of them need a little wrangling, but for the most part, they're ready to vote and sign up for it. So a lot of time they're waiting to get a Republican on there so they can go do Jack and Jill. Because if you have 200 Democrats on there and 15 Republicans, you're not going to get another vote. So wrangling the lickles, and then obviously doing the state convention, which is the work that needs to be done as your general meeting. So I mean that was probably like the prime functions of what a state board is. I mean, how you would envision a state board is you gotta make sure you get those three things done. I mean, not every state is as easy as Massachusetts. We're all Democrats on that side. Not and like I said before, it's nonpartisan. So just because it's we take for granted the Democrats a little bit, but we also need to make sure we have our Republican friends. I mean, one of the only reasons why we're still not part of the Commerce Department is because we have a small group of Republicans who are vulnerable that we're able to whip around like dogs. So I mean, um, you gotta make sure you get that work done. And different states are going to be for different, obviously. So, and I think if you're able to do those key points, it's then you ask, well, what else can we do? And I guess what we're doing here with this ballot measure is we're kind of looking into our own state legislature. So, I mean, if I would, I would love to see us get into more state law stuff. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with also the Central Labor Councils with the AFL-CIO, if I would suggest anyone listening to us, they should talk to the president about joining a CLC, which is Central Labor Council in their state, because they do it all over. So you can learn the labor people all over. I mean, when we were doing the Hell No rallies, I had like at least 20 people at my rallies that were just other unions. So that should be another thing that obviously the state board should be working on, is making sure you're working with other labor fields. But every state's going to be different depending on what their politics looks like and what they want. So.
Is there ever any communication between state presidents, like Scott's the state president of Massachusetts, but does he ever talk to like the like Connecticut and Rhode Island, obviously small, but like does he ever talk to like the state president of New York? And like New York's got Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Is there ever like a a state convention of all the states other than like the COP or the national or the RAP?
I know that. I mean, I'm not gonna talk for Scott, obviously, because whatever Scott does is what Scott does, and I think he does a great job. But I know that every once in a while they'll have like regional meetings where they'll bring in all the state presidents and they'll bring them before the LPO, and that's usually when they get updates on like where we are with bills and what we need to do. So.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from the state presidents of like the most of this. Like, I don't know, I can't imagine Oklahoma has an, I'm guessing, but Oklahoma has too many people that are signing on to bills. Maybe they do, but I'd love to see how that president has to deal with the different the partisan issues in those states. it's nice to live in Massachusetts where you don't have to worry about it. And I always got the Clark thing with the, she's leadership, she can't endorse it. I know Hakeem Jeffries can't either, and Brian talked about that the other day, but I'm like, every once in a while it's nice to see leadership. And I know they're not supposed to favor bills, but I don't think it's a hard fast rule that they can't sign on. It's just like they don't want to. It's like having 20 kids and you don't want to give this kid too much attention, but it just would be really nice. Catherine Clark, I talked to her at the convention. I was her liaison for a while. Would have been really nice to see that name on the HR 70, and it's gonna be really sticking my craw for a while. So
I kind of like to think of it as like the US and Taiwan because like sometimes like it's everyone knows that we're allies, but we have to say there is one China. The problem
right,
is that as soon as we say, yeah, you know what, we recognize Taiwan, now China's coming to attack it. So like she kind of protects us by not doing that because as soon as
okay,
she says that she's co-sponsoring our bill, first off, you're never getting another Republican, and two, you're going to see people who she's basically flagging saying, hey, this is important to me, so therefore you should attack that. So now you're
mm,
putting a target on our back. I mean,
okay,
like, would
it's
I
a good way to look
love
at it.
would I love her to co-sponsor? Sure, but like to me, that's kind of like trying to win like a foot on the battleground, but we want to win the war, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
politics, so it's all war metaphors.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I'm sure if they were in the majority or when they're in the majority, it's probably your point is probably more valuable then too, because then they're really going to attack her when she's the majority whip and Jeffries is the speaker. So like politics is always dirty and it sucks that especially it's kind of like she's my my rep for my office and it's just like and I was like I said I was her liaison and I do like her. I used to, I mean, if I lived in her, I don't live where in her district right now, but so I get it, but it's just I really wanted to see that name on there. There's another Clark, and I was like, oh no, that's someone else, and I think it's a Republican too. So, but I really hope Markey and Warren and I usually, especially Markey has been a big advocate of the post office for a while, just as big as Stephen Lynch is, and Stephen Lynch, he puts it out there. He comes and he speaks with us. He spoke at the Hell No rally in March, and he'll tell anybody who's anybody. Everybody in his family work for the post office. So it's good. It's good to have allies like that, in Congress. So
Keating also used to be a casual.
yeah, he was at the convention,
Yeah,
and
I've talked to him like 4 or 5 times, and he tells me the same story every time. I just smile, but he's a
yeah,
good guy.
yeah. No, it's good to have and they're unfortunately they're getting older, and you know, I think some people in Congress should retire, but it's going to be interesting to see when we don't have those allies. I don't think Seth Moulton signed on. I don't even know if he signed on, but I don't think he's going to be as strong of an ally as a Markey or a Clark or a Keating. So it's going to be interesting in the future, and another reason why we really need to keep that letter carrier political fund going. So
And then that's another reason to get involved with your Central Labor Council because when I'm at those meetings, the one thing we talk about is like we need to get people in labor elected because, if our elected officials are people from labor, they're more likely to vote for our bills and what stuff. So that's another grassroots thing you could do. For our state house, there was a special election around the Taunton area. Lisa Field, she's the state rep now for in Massachusetts for like the state legislature, and she's from labor. We were able to get her elected in a very red zone. But that's someone who if she keeps moving on, she's going to remember those labor roots. So that's some things that we know. If we're going go with our central labor councils, that's the grassroots, making sure we get people elected who are labor people.
yeah, I mean, Chris P and I, the other Chris, who's the host of one of the hosts of Next Generation, we're talking about there's Auchincloss might be primaried, and the guy. Do I think the person primary has a chance? Probably not, but he's more labor friendly. And it would be nice to even to give him that little. That's why I asked Brian the other day, can we give the letter carrier political fund money to people running? And I always thought that we couldn't. Brian says we can if it's someone that we know is going to really put post office, not that anybody would run on a post office only platform, but labor first before anything. And hopefully we see more of that in the future. So, Derek, did you have anything before I think we're going to wrap it up. Did you have anything before we wrapped it up?
Yeah, I think our union has adopted a political strategy where we have our left base that we can always tap into on the left wing of the Democrats, and then we have to grease our way to getting the center and some amount of center and right Republicans on board. And we've seen how it's been able to deliver. I mean, we're able to slowly chip away and get certain wins and definitely block some big attacks on us. And I just encourage people, get more involved in the union, get more involved in the union's political process. The more that we're able to build that pro-labor base in politics, the more effective we're going to be able to be. I mean, the fact is, we're not going to be able to outspend corporations, but we are able to out-organize them because we outnumber them, we outvote them.
Yep. Chris,
Well said.
yeah, thank you. Chris, did you have anything before we wrap up?
I think you hear enough of me talk this so far, but no, I mean, I'm just echoing what Derek said there too. So,
All right. Capone's unmuting himself. He's still on mute.
thanks for having
there
us
we
on,
go.
guys.
There he is.
I want to thank you guys all for being here. It's nice to learn more about the state. I think so many carriers have no idea what goes on in state that any of the state associations, or even that they're part of a state association. And it's something that I wish more carriers understood and got involved in and really realized the process. This was my first state convention that I went to this past summer, and seeing how the process works with resolutions going from branches to the state and how the state's informed of politics. It's a really important branch of the NALC that I wish more people realized was there. I think it's kind of sad. So many people have no clue they're even part of a state association, which every member is part of their state association. So again, I want to thank you guys for being here tonight, and have a good night, everybody.